So today's video is going to be all about shooting an interview, corporate interview, documentary interview, whatever it is that you got to do. But it's going to be a little bit different from your typical YouTube video because I'm not going to go over camera or lighting techniques or how to frame a shot or anything like that. This video is going to be from the perspective of the client. What should you do to make your client comfortable, right? How to make your client comfortable so they can ooze that personality, that charisma through the camera and onto the footage and the final product so the viewers can relate and so you can look like a superstar. Let's dive in. Okay, so I've shot a lot of interviews in my career and they all range, right? I've shot product showcase videos where the person wants to be interviewed so they can talk about their product. We've shot corporate interviews and they can range from a startup company all the way up to a law firm or even small business clients where, for example, a barbershop. A small business wants to talk about their new business. They're excited to talk about it and they're going to relate in a very personal way. So interviews are a very important part about videography. All right, tip number one, be professional, show up on time, show up ahead of time, try to set up as much as possible before the client walks in. And this is kind of dependent on the client, but oftentimes we'll show up, we'll set up the camera, we'll set up the mic, we'll even do test shots or we'll do audio takes and try to get as much as possible done before the client walks in. Some clients absolutely don't care about what you're doing. They don't want to see the camera, they don't want to see it getting set up, they don't care about videography, they just want to say their lines that they've memorized and usually work really hard on and then leave. They're camera shy. Other clients, and for me personally, it's been the rare occasion where they actually want to see everything. Seeing you set up the camera, seeing how you're setting up the lighting, they get a sense of how professional you are, right? And then they kind of let their guard down. They start to kind of enjoy the process and they do better. But it's entirely up to the client, right? You kind of really do need to feel them out. It's depending on their personality. But the most important thing is be professional, be on time, set up things, efficiently, effectively, and always keep the client in mind because when they come in, it's showtime and it's always going to be a lot smoother if everything's ready to go. Tip number two, talk to the client while everything's set up and be behind the camera. You want them to start to kind of get a feel of the interview. I always do a dry run. I'll let them know what the questions are. We'll go through it. I may or may not give them feedback depending on if they're open to it. Some of them have scripts ready. They've memorized exactly what they want to say and that's it. That's what they want to say. But I'll just casually talk to them before we actually start recording. And then oftentimes I'll be like, okay, we're ready to go. And you'll see them tense up, right? So I'll just remind them, hey, it's just me and you here. It's just exactly what we just did. Don't mind the red light. Just be yourself. So try to give them dry runs because ultimately, and you'll see for step 3, you kind of need to get them warmed up a little bit and not focusing so much on the camera. Tip number 3. Every time I do this, the first 3 takes are usually the worst. It's very rare that the first or second take are home runs and they've knocked it out of the park. And it's nothing against the client. It's just usually the client's very stiff. And then as we're going through it, they're relaxing. They're starting to have fun. So that's normal. That's to be expected. Don't think something's going on, right? I've kind of figured this out the hard way. I have a habit of taking 4 or 5 takes, right? So I can get the best of their performance and make it into one final interview. And I found that the first and second take are usually the worst. They look like a completely different person as you're kind of going on with the interview. In the first few takes, they look really stiff, nervous, you can tell. So allow them to just kind of loosen up. Every client will loosen up. Tip number 4. Get them to smile. Remind them to smile. Remember, they have to perform for the camera. They have to look a specific way. Some clients will naturally smile. They will naturally ooze that charisma. Others have the charisma when you're talking to them, but when the camera's rolling, they forget to smile. They're so focused on script reading that they completely forget that it's also their personality that people want to see and what you need to capture, right? You need to capture their personality. So remind them to smile, take breaks. I usually will tell my clients, hey, I'm going to give you a little like signal to, loosen up, brighten up a little bit, smile, ooze that charisma. And usually it's something as simple as like tapping on my shoulder. I'll tell them maintain eye contact. They'll look at me and honestly, by the third take, they got it. And now they're oozing that charisma. Tip number 5, and stay tuned because I'm gonna give you 2 bonus tips. If you need to, bring a teleprompter. It's 50-50, I'll be honest with you. Sometimes clients want it, but reading off of a teleprompter kind of takes a little bit of skill. Not a lot, but you gotta get used to it. So sometimes it's bad, and you can see that the client's crashing and burning, and sometimes that kills their confidence, and then it's just a uphill climb after that. But certain clients will ask for it. They're like, hey, do you have a teleprompter? Usually in a corporate interview, directors, senior managers, things like that, they're used to reading off a teleprompter anyways. So they're a lot happier. They're much more comfortable reading off a teleprompter, and that's fine. But what I have them do is I'll tell them, because again, sometimes senior managers, directors, VPs, CEOs, things like that, they've never wrote their actual script before. Someone wrote it for them. And you got to remember to talk as you would in real life. You're not reading off of a thesis, right? So I'll remind them like, hey, try to type out what you would naturally say, not what you would release to your board, right? Or your shareholders or something like that. So sometimes a teleprompter is a good thing. Sometimes it's not. Okay, here's 2 bonus tips that I want to talk about. The first bonus tip that I have for you guys is remember to ask your clients to pause after each sentence. Not only is it going to help you in the editing process and post-production, so you can cleanly cut to different cameras or cut entirely to B-roll or whatever, but it also allows you to control their breathing a little bit more, right? And it slows the pace a little bit down, not too much, but just slows the pace down and allows everybody to relax. It's good for the post-production work. It's good when you're there. And ultimately, it's just good all around. So for example, if the line is, good morning, everybody. My name is Tom. I'm the CEO of a huge software company, which does $200 million in sales every year. And I want to talk to you about this wonderful company and this new product that we have and all the people that we employ. That's a lot. If there's a screw up there, it's going to be really hard to cut. It's not natural. It's a lot better to do it this way. Good morning, everybody. My name's Tom, and I want to talk to you about our software company, which actually does $200 million in sales every year. We have this exciting new product that I want to show you. See what I'm saying? You're pausing, you're allowing something to happen, whether good or bad, but there's a natural break for you to edit and for them to kind of relax and gather themselves. The last bonus tip that I have for you guys is it's always better to have someone physically sitting down and actually interviewing the person and talking to them. And it shouldn't be the camera operator. So for example, if I'm working the camera, one of my associates will sit down on a chair and look directly at the client in the eye and just conduct the interview. The cameras will be offset away from the client, so he's not directly looking into the lens. He's looking at the person's off camera, and they're just having a natural conversation. This does 2 things. 1, it's more flattering, right, for the interview. It gives that professional look where the person's casually talking to someone in the room. And 2, you're casually talking to someone in a room, so they tend to kind of forget that the cameras are there. Not entirely, right? They have 2, sometimes 3 cameras. Sometimes we do 3 camera setups and there's a mic in their face and lights and all this stuff. But if I'm talking to someone here and we're just talking and the person's smiling, and usually I pick the most charismatic person. We have a person on our team that's very good at conducting interviews. His name is Micah. Shout out to Micah. And they're just talking to Micah. They're having a good time, and he's talking to them like a human being. He's responding to their answers, and he's giving his perspective. And now the client's loosening up, and they're talking to a person rather than talking to a camera, to a lens. That's it for me, guys. I hope you found this video informative. If you did, please consider subscribing and joining our channel memberships. I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, everybody.